population that are not participating at all. So when I was, in my earlier speech, talking about people not voting, the most fascinating statistic is this. There are about 210 million people in this country eligible to vote, right? That they could vote, but only about 71% of that figure actually register to vote, and only about 61% in the last election actually vote. So we have tens and tens of millions of able-bodied American citizens who are not participating in the democracy at all. So when you ask that question, it's not just about trying to go have a discussion or an argument with somebody that may not want to come over to our side. It's actually expanding and bringing people in who are not participating at all for a variety of reasons. Maybe they've lost hope. Maybe nobody's ever asked them. Maybe they don't understand how the process works and they feel embarrassed. I mean, I'll send you a story I just wrote about a friend of mine who just died. He's 43 years old. In fact, he voted for David Price. He's from Pittsburgh. He's a big Cajun from New Orleans, and I was the first politician he ever voted for, and he was 35 years old. He was college educated, played football at Tulane, from a two-parent household. He was doted on, he was the youngest child, and he had never voted in his life because he didn't see a reason to. And you would be surprised how many people out here are not participating. That's the people we have to reach. Because until they get involved, we're going to have the government we deserve. I can't do anything about that 35% that believe in their values. I've got to get to the 65% and get them to come on board. Dan and David can come at it from a different direction, but that's at least my view. You make a very good point in your question, and it's not an easy answer.
No, and I will actually echo what Randy has said. I'll just bring it closer to Wake County. In Wake County, in 2008, 2012, we had tremendous outpouring for the presidential election. In 2010, when we got our clocks going and lost all sorts of progress that we had made, many of our races were won or lost by under 10,000 votes. Okay, all 4 county commission races were lost by about, on average, 10,000 votes. I have here in Wake County 50,000 registered Democrats. These are people that have taken the time to register. These are folks that came out and voted in 2008 and 2012 and went missing in 2010. Just vanished. They decided for whatever reason that midterm election wasn't important to them. So when we talk about engaging new voters, half of my battle is to go out and engage voters that I've already got, that have voted with us before, that are being hurt right now by this General Assembly, and simply need to be reminded that they're supposed to be voting. If I get 50 of those people in each precinct, and I'm sure each of you probably knows a handful of people that didn't vote in 2010 that probably should have, then we win every single race that we face in Wake County. I mean, you get me 20,000 votes, and it's a game changer. And that's before you start talking to new registrants, or before you start talking about people who should be registered but aren't registered. We're talking about the lowest hanging fruit you can possibly find. The folks that say they didn't vote because they couldn't get there, or because they didn't feel like it,
right,
or because they didn't know there was an election.
That list I was talking about, those are votes that were right.
Right, that the election was done the other day. That's right.
So commit to helping Dan here in Wake County and change Wake County.
And it's true like that across the state. If you get people that are already registered to vote, and you bring everybody else that you can along, then you change the terrain, even in those gerrymandered districts, because you're going to pick up a lot of Republicans, in Congressional District 2, who have decided that, I don't know Renee Elmers all that well, and now that I've gotten to know her, I don't care who you pick. Any of these folks is going to be better than her, because this is ridiculous. Or Congressional District 13, where again, they'll say, I don't know George Holden, but I did see that picture of him sleeping when he was supposed to be leading that body. You can't do that. You certainly can't get paid 6 figures to do that. Enough Republicans hear that as well. So if we do our part and get our voters out there, even in those places where we don't think we're very popular, and we get everyone else who wants to participate and is not participating, we can win this. And we can even bring the other party back to a place of being sensible and understanding that they at least need to participate in a democracy.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you, Kazi Said. I think we are running short of our time. Already Congressman Price told that he has to leave. So I'll have to wrap it up. But before that, I'd like to request Mubarak Chaudhary, please make it short and precise, that way we can cover everyone. Thank you.
I would add, if you have questions, you can get to us directly or through your representative Russell here, and we'd be happy to take any questions.
I have actually one question. Like the congressional districts, whatever has been done, Republican legislators, how the Justice Department justifies that there is nothing wrong with it? Because whenever you look at it, I don't think in North Carolina congressional district ever Democrat can gain majority of the congressman. That's
all right, that's certainly a good question. We've asked ourselves that many times. Let me say one thing about the Justice Department. I'll just be very brief on this and as simple as I can. It is a long history here of when the Justice Department gets involved and when they don't. The recent history is that the U.S. Justice Department will get involved in one of these redistricting cases where the representation of minorities that have been discriminated against, where that representation is threatened. In other words, the way to pull the Justice Department into North Carolina would have been for the legislature to mess with the Butterfield's district or Mel Watt's district to make it harder or impossible for them to be reelected. Now, these guys in the General Assembly were not stupid enough to do that. Okay, what they did was something very near the opposite. They packed voters, they packed minority voters, more and more concentrated minority voters into that district that Mel Watt represented, into the Butterfield district, and in fact into the 4th district. So these districts have become even more democratic. And Mel Watt just said very straightforwardly, please don't give me any more minority voters. You know, because what you're doing, we know what you're doing. You're giving me an 80% win, but you're removing or reducing minority influence in all these surrounding districts. Give me a break, you know, it's not, nobody's doing the minority community any favors by simply concentrating their voters more and more. And what I'm saying about the congressional districts is basically also true of the General Assembly districts here in this state. So the Justice Department did not take on packing. Now, I wish they had. I think they could have. But when I hear it said that the Justice Department didn't help us out here, I have to say they were consistent, because they simply have not generally gotten involved as protagonists in the kind of situation that we've got here. I hope that will change. But in the meantime, you can't say that North Carolina's been singled out. They simply haven't done it anywhere. Now, we have taken this to court, and I have a lot of questions about the early court decisions. But those aren't totally resolved, it's just that it takes forever. But if you're saying what the legal basis for a court challenge is, it is the use of race in drawing these districts. As far as I'm concerned, the courts ought to throw those districts out in a heartbeat. But so far they have not done that.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm like Dan, not very happy since majority took over a number of issues that I think concerns me as well as the community. I'm going to only ask one question since we are out of time. I live in the West Cary community. In that, I think within Cary City, that part is growing fast as anybody have seen in the past. However, the schools are operating over capacity up to 16% now, and hundreds of communities currently building. The population growth will increase, and our children will be taught in probably mobile homes or maybe under trees. What are we doing about this kind of situation? It appears to me the county commissioners and the builders, developers of the city developers and the school board are not communicating. They are not balancing the build-ups and the population growth and the school capacity. Thank you.
Sure, and you basically answered the question, which is that between the folks that are approving the construction of these very large suburbs and subdivisions, and our school board and our county commission, there has to be a policy in place that says if you were building 100 homes in an area where the closest high school and middle school and elementary school are already at capacity, you're either paying taxes so that we can construct a new school, or we need to set aside money from somewhere to do the very same thing. It's a shame that we have so many students right now who are being taught on the very, first of all, let me back. There are few things more beautiful in a community than a school. I don't know if you've driven through some of the older parts of Cary or Raleigh, and you see these wonderful buildings that were erected to educate a community. The idea that you've got a 1,000-home subdivision out there with no new high school is ridiculous. Because you're putting houses, you're planting people that are eventually going to be teenagers, and they've got to go somewhere. You drive by those same schools now, and there are trailer after trailer after trailer after trailer. And it becomes very obvious that somewhere along the line, we did not plan for the growth. Even as the cities and towns are welcoming the growth, even as all the businesses are absorbing the growth, we put handcuffs on our own school board and county commission to respond to that. I think it starts with the county commission right now, because the other side of the problem that you've got is even if you start building more schools, we've got problems retaining teachers. So we'll have trailer after trailer after trailer with poor and poor and poor quality of school teachers because we don't respect or pay enough to the ones that we've got. So I think right now the ball is in the court of the county commission, and that's what we've got to fix.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. We'll just entertain only one question from the audience. Like I said before, that we are running short of time. I wish distinguished guests should be here longer, but they have other appointments to attend. So I can entertain only one question if anyone has, just only one. Okay. Sounds great.
I have one question. A recent, this is regarding the Bangladesh and US and also the overall Bangladeshi in United States. We had recently the election in Bangladesh completely without any kind of democratic way. It's happened and present government is holding the position. In that context, as a democratic, how the US government thinking about this credibility of this election and the present government?
What I said a few moments ago was the best summary I could give of that. I think, and I don't think there's been an independent inquiry. Asher can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's been an independent inquiry as to that election. But I do think there are widespread, credible reports backing up what you say. That there were problems with the execution of the election and perhaps also with the tallying of the ballots. What makes it harder, though, is that the opposition was boycotting the election.
Yeah.
That makes it harder, I think, for one to make judgments about this, or certainly to make any kind of determination that the election should be held again or should be reversed. So I know that's not a very satisfactory resolution. Our country can't always be involved in adjudicating these election disputes, although when there's clear evidence of abuse, I think we should be quick to say so. But that's an example of the sort of issue that if you and your sources in the country or beyond have things that you want to communicate to me and want to pass along, I'm always happy to look at it.
Thank you, Congressman. In fact, one thing I like to mention here that we don't want to go into partisan politics here because we already defined what will be the agenda. Based on those agenda, I think we are gathering here. So try to understand that part of the reality. So with this few words, again, I like to thank you everyone for being here today. And it is our pleasure to welcome those distinguished guests from the Democratic Party of North Carolina. And I am also very happy that despite your all busy schedule, he took the trouble to come over here. Now I think Anindu has a better way to say our thanks, so I'll switch over to Anindu Nath, who is going to give a formal vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you again. This is a pleasant afternoon. I will just say one quick thing. And when '97 I moved to this city, it was a very small city with a handful of Bangladeshis living here. And if I recall, most of them were not citizens. So now I lived in this city almost 16 to 17 years, and I saw the growth of the Bangladeshi populations in this, especially in the Wake County. And when I look at the populations are not here now, most of them are either citizens and very hardworking people who want to be involved in the political process of this country. And I believe this is our starting point. This is the first time we are formally meeting with the Democratic Party and some kind of political formal process. And in future, this type of meeting should continue. We should engage more as a community in the mainstream US politics. And that is, I think, only that way we can make changes to the society, make changes for the betterment of our life. And thank you everyone again for being here.